Okay, so it's been a little bit. The car is running and driving perfectly fine. Oil level is good, coolant is good, blowing hot air all the way across, engine runs perfectly, it drives perfectly. But then I have that's the AT oil temp light. Not sure exactly what that is. I'm gonna be looking into it. I really don't understand it because I did not touch the transmission at all, but that's kind of how these swaps go. It could very well be that I happened to do this much work to the car, and now that it's got a better running engine, something else is wacky in the transmission. I checked all the trans fluids, the front differential and the actual trans fluid, everything looks good. Tried all the little tips and tricks, diagnostic tips and tricks, and nothing has worked. So it's just been flashing solid the entire time. So that's kind of the reality of these swaps. I think it's the temperature sensor sensing that it's too hot, and I don't think it's actually too hot, because I did nothing to the transmission. I've checked all the connectors in it, I've checked the fluid levels, I've done everything. Cannot figure it out. So I'm going to start by replacing the automatic transmission filter, the spin-on filter on the outside of the trans. See what that does, and if it doesn't work, then I might end up dropping the trans pan, checking out any solenoids under there, sensors, whatever there might be, and changing the actual filter underneath the oil pan. I'm hoping we don't have to do that. I'm hoping it's just a simple, stupid fix, but like I said, I'm defeated. I've been trying to diagnose this for 2 hours. Other than that, the car's perfect. I wouldn't want to drive around seeing that light flashing. So all right, what's going on, everybody? So this is a follow-up video on the engine swap I just did. If you watch the time lapse, I swapped my buddy's EJ25 single overhead cam to an EJ20 single overhead cam. And basically, I ended up with an issue where the AT oil temp light was flashing. This is for automatic transmissions only. The light on the dash was just flashing non-stop. So I did mess up, and I will own that 100%. I had to pay $130 to fix the issue, but I will run you through what trouble you might be running into if you get the same thing after doing a swap or pulling the engine or something along those lines, where you ended up jacking up the transmission, potentially by the transmission oil pan. Now on auto trans, that is kind of the only way to do it. But if you don't spread the load with a 2x4 across the pan, you will end up caving the pan in. And I'll run you through with something a diagram I wrote up here. Basically what happened with this is I bent the oil pan up like this, so it had a little curve in it, and it was barely noticeable until I took the pan off, and the pan had this slight curve up. It was flat. What was happening is the automatic transmission oil temp sensor was grounding out on the pan, causing it to malfunction and trigger the light. So if you have recently done a swap, something along those lines, and you may have jacked the transmission up by the pan and bent it possibly, that could more than likely be the cause of your light. So I'll kind of run you through what I've got written down here. Okay, so let's try not to get my shadow in it. So you've got your transmission, right? Automatic transmission. This is your pan on the bottom. This is about where the oil temp sensor wiring goes into the transmission, just on the front right corner of the trans pan. If you're under it, it would be the side towards the engine. This is your bell housing. This is your engine, right? So within this, okay, so if you're looking from the top side down at your transmission, this is as if you can see through the transmission, but your pan is right here. Your oil temp sensor wiring goes in right about there, right? The actual oil temp sensor is right about here, that little dot that I just made. So it's about the middle, just on the driver's side, right? So what I ended up having to do was drop the transmission pan. There's a filter in here, and I had to end up straightening that pan out. I did it with a 2x4 coincidentally, and changed out the filter, put the pan back on with a new gasket and RTV, and then I also replaced the spin-on trans filter, which is like right here or so, at the same time. And then I had to buy 6 quarts of Subaru automatic transmission fluid. So you want to buy that transmission fluid specifically because Subaru transmissions can get kind of picky. So like I said, basically the temp sensor was grounding out because I bent the pan up. So if you're having the same issue where the automatic transmission oil temp light is flashing and you just did a swap or pulled the engine and rebuilt it, or just dropping the engine into a new car and you had to jack the transmission up to get level with the engine as you're dropping the engine in, that could very well be your issue. So I hope this helped anyone out. I went through everything else to make sure that this was the last thing that I could have needed to do to fix it. I checked all the wiring, I checked the circuit, I checked continuity between the circuit and the sensor. I unplugged the sensor wiring and the light went off, so I know the sensor was working, right? It was just either cutting off the flow to the sensor or grounding it out on the pan. So if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, I'll be as helpful as I possibly can. I hope this helped you out. And I know it sucks to think like, you know, maybe I did bend the pan, but especially if you're doing it for someone or as a, you know, mechanic, or you're just doing it on your own car and you've eliminated every other possibility, that's the only thing that's left. You're gonna have to fix it. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna have to drop that pan, might as well change out the filter while you're there, both filters, reseal it, and the entire ordeal for me was about $120. And my friend was not really gonna pay for it, but I told him, I was like, you know what? This is 100% my fault. I will own it, and it's the way I learn my lessons. So it sounds like it's something pretty simple and a stupid move when you don't do it right. But if you're going to jack up, buy the transmission pan on an automatic transmission, spread the load across the pan with a 2x4 or some piece of wood to where the load is on the corners or the sides of the transmission pan and not jacking up straight in the middle to bend it. So like I said, I hope this helps anyone out. Let me know if you tried this and it ended up fixing your issue. If it did help you out, be sure to leave a like. Don't forget to, you know, comment your situation, and also don't forget to subscribe for more helpful stuff like this and more awesome engine swaps and all that kind of stuff. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.